The night was calm, almost peaceful in downtown Chicago. The city lights reflected off the windows of St. Vincent Hospital, where Dr. Lavra Bennett had just finished a long shift. She sighed as she took off her gloves and tossed them into the trash bin near the nurse's station. Her feet ached and her mind felt heavy after hours of tending to patients. But there was no time to rest. A new trauma case had just come in, a car accident victim with severe internal injuries, and Lavra knew she would be needed soon. Ryan Carter, one of the hospital's most dedicated nurses, approached her with a clipboard in hand. "Dr. Bennett," he said softly, his voice tinged with concern, "you've been on your feet for 12 hours straight. Let me handle this one." Lavra shook her head firmly. "No, Ryan, this is serious. I'll take it." She gave him a small smile before heading toward the emergency room. Ryan hesitated but followed anyway, knowing that once Laura made up her mind, there was no changing it. Inside, the chaos reigned. Paramedics rushed in with the injured man on a gurney, shouting vital signs and updates. Lavra sprang into action, barking orders to the staff around her. The team worked seamlessly, their movements precise and practiced. For a moment, everything seemed normal, the usual rhythm of life and death in a busy hospital. But then, something changed. A low hum filled the air, growing louder by the second. It wasn't like anything anyone had heard before, deep, resonant, and unnatural. The lights flickered briefly, and several monitors went dark. Alarms began blaring throughout the building. Patients screamed, confused and frightened. Staff members scrambled to figure out what was happening. "What's going on?" Ryan shouted over the noise, clutching the edge of a counter for support. "I don't know," Lavra replied, her heart pounding. She glanced at the window and froze. Outside, strange shapes were descending from the sky, massive metallic objects that glowed faintly in the darkness. They hovered silently above the streets, casting eerie shadows across the pavement. Before anyone could react, the hospital doors burst open. Dozens of figures poured inside, not human, but alien. Their bodies were tall and angular, covered in sleek armor that shimmered like liquid metal. Their faces were hidden behind masks, making them look more machine than living beings. In their hands they carried weapons unlike anything on Earth long, slender devices that emitted pulsating beams of light. Panic erupted. Nurses and doctors tried to flee, but the aliens moved with terrifying speed. They grabbed anyone wearing scrubs or lab coats, dragging them away without hesitation. Some fought back, throwing whatever they could find, but it was useless. The aliens' weapons fired bursts of energy that incapacitated their targets instantly. "Lavra, we have to get out of here," Ryan yelled, grabbing her arm. She shook him off, her eyes darting around the room. "We can't leave these people. There's nothing we can do," he insisted, pulling her toward a side exit. Reluctantly, Lavra followed, her mind racing. She couldn't believe what was happening. Why were they targeting hospitals? What did they want with doctors and nurses? They ran down a corridor, dodging fallen equipment and overturned carts. Behind them, the sounds of destruction grew louder. Walls crumbled as the aliens tore through the building, searching for survivors. Ryan pushed open a door leading to a stairwell and ushered Lavra inside. "We'll go down to the basement," he said. "Quickly. There's an old storage room there. Maybe we can hide until they're gone." Lavra nodded, though doubt gnawed at her. Would hiding really help? What if the aliens found them? And even if they escaped, what about the others? How many lives would be lost tonight? As they descended the stairs, the reality of the situation sank in. This wasn't just happening in Chicago. Reports were flooding in from all over the world: hospitals under attack, medical personnel abducted or killed. No one understood why. There had been no warning, no demands. Just sudden, brutal violence aimed squarely at those who healed. When they reached the basement, Ryan led Lavra to a tiny room tucked away in a corner. He locked the door behind them and turned off his flashlight, plunging them into darkness. For a while, neither of them spoke. They sat close together, listening intently for any sign of movement outside. Finally, Lavra broke the silence. You think they'll stop?" she whispered. "I don't know," Ryan admitted. "But I do know one thing: we can't give up. Not yet." Hours passed, or maybe it was only minutes. Time seemed to blur in the suffocating blackness. Eventually, the commotion upstairs died down. The aliens appeared to be leaving, though whether they'd taken everyone or simply moved on to another location, Lavra couldn't say. When they finally emerged from their hiding spot, the hospital was eerily quiet. The damage was everywhere: smashed equipment, shattered glass, bloodstains on the floor. Lavra felt sick as she surveyed the scene. So much suffering, so much loss. And for what? Back at the United Nations headquarters in New York City, military strategist Captain Daniel Hayes stood before a group of world leaders. His expression was grim as he briefed them on the unfolding crisis. Screens displayed images of devastated hospitals and lists of missing healthcare workers. The numbers were staggering. "This isn't random," Hayes said firmly. "These attacks are coordinated, calculated. Whoever or whatever is behind this knows exactly what they're doing." "But why target medics?" asked one of the officials, her voice trembling. "What possible motive could they have?" Hayes hesitated. "That's what we need to find out. But make no mistake, they're crippling our ability to respond. Without doctors and nurses, we're vulnerable." He paused, letting his words sink in. Then he added, "We may not understand their reasoning, but we do know one thing: we can't let them win. We need a plan, and we need it now." Across the globe, people watched the news in horror. Social media buzzed with theories and speculation. Some blamed rogue nations or secret government experiments. Others claimed it was divine punishment. But deep down, everyone knew the truth. Humanity was facing something far beyond its comprehension. In Chicago, Lavra and Ryan returned to what remained of St. Vincent Hospital. They joined other survivors in treating the wounded as best they could, using whatever supplies they could scavenge. Exhaustion weighed heavily on them, but they refused to give up. Every life saved was a victory against despair. Days later, Lavra received a message from Captain Hayes. He wanted to meet with her personally to discuss a potential role in humanity's response to the alien threat. At first, she balked at the idea. She was a doctor, not a soldier. What use could she possibly be in a war? But when she thought about the faces of her colleagues who had been taken, the patients she hadn't been able to save, she realized she couldn't stand idly by. If there was even a chance she could make a difference, she had to take a dot with Ryan's reluctant blessing. Lavra agreed to join Hayes' initiative. Little did she know, this decision would thrust her into a world of danger and sacrifice, one where healing and fighting became two sides of the same coin. And so, amidst the ruins of a shattered world, the seeds of resistance were planted. Humanity might have been caught off guard, but it wouldn't stay down for long. Not while there were still people willing to fight back. Lavra arrived at a secluded military base nestled deep in the mountains. The journey had been long and nerve-wracking, with armed escorts ensuring her safety every step of the way. When she finally stepped out of the car, the cold mountain air hit her face, sharp and biting. Soldiers moved about the compound with purpose, their boots crunching against the gravel paths. It was a far cry from the sterile hallways of St. Vincent Hospital. Captain Daniel Hayes greeted her near the entrance, his posture rigid but his expression kind. "Dr. Bennett," he said, extending a hand. "Thank you for coming." "Of course," Lavra replied, shaking his hand firmly. "But I still don't understand why you need me here. I'm not trained for combat." Hayes gave a small smile. "You'll see soon enough." He gestured for her to follow him. Let me show you something. They walked through the base, passing rows of barracks and equipment sheds until they reached a large hangar. Inside, Laura's breath caught in her throat. A group of men and women stood in formation, clad in sleek black uniforms adorned with silver insignias. Their presence was commanding. They carried themselves like soldiers, yet there was an aura of precision and calm that set them apart. "This is the Angels of Death," Hayes announced. "An elite unit created specifically for situations like this." Lavra frowned. "Angels of Death? That's quite a name." "It fits," Hayes said simply. "These individuals are trained not only to fight, but also to heal. They're medics, strategists, and warriors all rolled into one." One of the figures stepped forward, a tall man with piercing gray eyes and a scar running along his jawline. His demeanor was stern, almost intimidating, but there was a flicker of warmth when he spoke. "Commander Ethan Stone," he introduced himself, offering a brief nod. "Welcome to the team." Lavra hesitated. "I appreciate the invitation, but I'm not sure how I fit in here. I've never held a weapon in my life." "You won't just be holding weapons," Ethan said. "You'll be learning how to use them effectively while maintaining your role as a healer. Your skills will complement ours. Trust me, we need someone like you." Before Laura could respond, another member of the group approached a young woman with sharp features and dark hair pulled back into a tight braid. "Mia Torres," she said curtly. "Sniper and field medic." "Nice to meet you," Laura replied, though Mia's tone left little room for friendliness. Two others joined them next. Jake Riley, a tech specialist with glasses perched on his nose, grinned nervously. "Hey Doc, don't worry, we'll get you up to speed." Beside him stood Leo Grant, a burly man with arms crossed over his chest. He didn't say much, merely inclining his head in acknowledgement. Lavra got the sense he wasn't one for small talk. Over the next few days, Lavra underwent intense training sessions designed to prepare her for the challenges ahead. At first, everything felt overwhelming. She struggled to hold a rifle steady, let alone aim it properly. During hand-to-hand combat drills, she found herself easily overpowered by even the smallest opponents. Frustration bubbled inside her, threatening to boil over. "You're thinking too much," Ethan told her during one particularly grueling session. "Survival isn't about logic, it's instinct. You have to trust yourself." "I'm not cut out for this," Lavra muttered, wiping sweat from her brow. "Yes, you are," Ethan countered sharply. "You survived that hospital raid, didn't you? That took courage. Now channel that same determination here." Slowly but surely, Lavra began to adapt. Jake spent hours teaching her how to operate advanced medical devices integrated into their gear. Mia showed her basic marksmanship techniques, though their interactions remained terse. Leo, surprisingly, turned out to be patient when demonstrating defensive maneuvers. Even Ethan softened slightly, offering advice without condescension. As the days turned into weeks, Lavra started to feel like part of the team. They shared meals together, swapping stories late into the night. She learned that Ethan had lost his sister, a doctor, to enemy fire during a previous alien encounter. Mia's family had been wiped out in a plague caused by extraterrestrial pathogens. Jake's fascination with technology stemmed from a childhood spent tinkering with gadgets to help his disabled younger brother. And Leo rarely spoke about his past, but Lavra sensed a deep well of pain beneath his stoic exterior. Despite their camaraderie, tensions occasionally flared. One evening, after a heated discussion about strategy, Mia confronted Lavra privately. "You know why we're doing this, right?" Mia asked bluntly. "This isn't some noble mission to save humanity, it's revenge." Lavra blinked, taken aback. "What do you mean?" "We've all lost people," Mia continued. "Friends, family, colleagues. Every single one of us has a score to settle. But you're different. You're here because you think you can fix things. Newsflash. Sometimes fixing isn't enough. Her words stung, but Larva refused to back down. Maybe I am naive, she admitted. But if I can save even one life or stop someone else from losing theirs, then it's worth it. Mia studied her for a moment before nodding curtly. Just don't let your ideals get anyone killed. The turning point came when Jake uncovered critical information hidden within intercepted alien transmissions. Using cutting-edge decryption software, he pieced together fragments of data revealing the invaders' motives. Larva listened intently as he explained his findings to the group. They view our medical advancements as a threat, Jake said, pointing to a holographic display showing diagrams of human DNA. Specifically, our ability to rapidly develop cures for diseases. To them, it disrupts their ecosystem. They fear we could wipe them out unintentionally or intentionally. So they decided to strike first, Ethan concluded grimly. By eliminating our healers, they hope to cripple us permanently. Larva felt a chill run down her spine. That's monstrous. It's survival, Ethan corrected. To them, we're the monsters. The revelation weighed heavily on everyone. For Larva, it reinforced the importance of their mission. If the aliens saw humanity's capacity for healing as dangerous, then proving otherwise might be the key to ending the conflict. But first, they needed to take the fight directly to the enemy. Preparations for the upcoming mission intensified. Weapons were tested, supplies packed, and plans refined. Larva worked closely with Jake to ensure the team's medical kits contained everything necessary for both treatment and biological analysis. She practiced suturing wounds under pressure, administering emergency drugs, and stabilizing simulated casualties, all while wearing full tactical gear. On the eve of their departure, the group gathered around a makeshift campfire outside the hangar. The flames cast flickering shadows across their faces as they shared quiet reflections. I used to think I understood what courage meant, Larva said softly. But now I realize it's not about being fearless. It's about moving forward. Despite the fear, Ethan nodded thoughtfully. Courage is contagious. When one person stands strong, others follow, Mia smirked. Or maybe we're all just crazy. Laughter rippled through the group, easing some of the tension. For a brief moment, they weren't soldiers preparing for war. They were ordinary people bound together by extraordinary circumstances. The next morning, dawn broke over the mountains, painting the sky in hues of orange and pink. The Angels of Death assembled near a sleek spacecraft housed in the hangar. Its design was unlike anything Larva had ever seen. Smooth curves and glowing panels hinted at alien origins. This is our ride, Jake explained proudly. We salvaged it from a crashed scout ship years ago. Took forever to reverse engineer the tech, but it gets the job done. As the team boarded the vessel, Larva took a deep breath. Her heart raced, but she reminded herself of Ethan's words. Trust yourself. Once inside, the hum of engines filled the air. The ship lifted off smoothly, ascending higher and higher until the world below became a distant blur. Through the viewport, Larva watched as stars appeared, countless and brilliant against the endless void. Their destination loomed ahead, a distant planet designated Xylith 7, home to the very beings who had attacked Earth. As the spacecraft entered hyperspace, Larva closed her eyes, steeling herself for what lay ahead. Whatever happened next, she knew one thing for certain: she wouldn't face it alone. The journey to Xylith 7 felt both endless and fleeting. Inside the spacecraft, the hum of the engines became a constant companion, blending with the quiet murmurs of the team as they prepared for what lay ahead. Larva sat near a viewport, staring out at the infinite expanse of stars. Her mind raced with thoughts of the mission, the aliens, and the lives that depended on their success. She tried to focus on the present, but fear kept creeping in like shadows at the edge of her vision. Jake was busy at a console nearby, running diagnostics on their stolen alien tech. He glanced up occasionally, his glasses reflecting the soft Glow of the control panels. "We're about halfway there," he said, breaking the silence. "Everything's holding steady." "Good," Ethan replied from the pilot's seat. His tone was calm, but there was an underlying tension in his voice. He had been quieter than usual since leaving Earth, lost in thought. Laura suspected he was replaying every detail of the plan in his mind, searching for weaknesses. Mia leaned against a wall, cleaning her rifle with methodical precision. The rhythmic click of the weapons parts being disassembled and reassembled filled the cabin. She didn't look up when Jake spoke, her focus entirely on her task. Leo, meanwhile, rested in a corner, his eyes closed but his body tense, ready to spring into action at a moment's notice. Laura turned away from the viewport and joined Jake at the console. "Do we know anything more about the planet?" she asked, trying to distract herself from the growing unease in her chest. "Not much," Jake admitted, tapping a few keys to bring up a holographic map. "From what we've gathered, it's harsh, cold, rocky terrain with limited vegetation. Their cities are underground, connected by tunnels. That's where we'll find them." "And where we'll find Ryan," Lavra added quietly. The thought of her colleague, still missing after the hospital raid, weighed heavily on her. Was he alive? Had he suffered? She pushed the questions aside. Dwelling on them wouldn't help anyone. Ethan shifted in his seat, glancing back at the group. "Once we land, we'll split into 2 teams. Mia and I will take point, scouting ahead and securing positions. Jake, you stay with Laura and Leo to handle tech support and medical needs. If things go sideways, our priority is extraction, not heroics." Everyone nodded in agreement, though Laura noticed Mia roll her eyes slightly. She knew the sniper disliked following orders, especially when they involved caution over aggression. Still, no one argued. They all understood the stakes. Hours later, the ship shuddered as it entered Xylith 7's atmosphere. Outside the viewport, the planet came into view, a desolate wasteland of jagged cliffs and swirling gray clouds. Lightning crackled across the horizon, illuminating the barren landscape below. It was a world devoid of warmth or life, at least on the surface. "We're approaching the landing zone," Ethan announced, activating camouflage. With a soft whir, the ship's exterior shimmered and faded, blending seamlessly into the rocky terrain. Moments later, they touched down in a shallow crater surrounded by boulders. The team gathered their gear, checking weapons and equipment one last time before stepping out onto alien soil. The air was thin and frigid, biting at their exposed skin despite their suit's thermal lining. Lovra adjusted her helmet, her breath fogging the visor momentarily. Through the haze, she scanned the area, her heart pounding. Everything looked eerily silent, almost too perfect. "This way," Ethan whispered, motioning for the group to follow him. They moved cautiously, sticking close to the rocks for cover. Each step crunched softly against the frozen ground, echoing unnaturally in the stillness. After several minutes of careful navigation, they reached the entrance to one of the underground tunnels. A massive metal door loomed before them, etched with intricate patterns that pulsed faintly with light. Jake approached it, pulling out a handheld device linked to the alien tech they'd salvaged. "I can bypass the lock," he said confidently, attaching the device to a panel beside the door. "Give me a minute." As Jake worked, the rest of the team formed a defensive perimeter. Lavra stayed close to Leo, who held his weapon at the ready. Her own rifle felt awkward in her hands, its weight unfamiliar and unwelcome. She gripped it tightly, reminding herself of the training she'd endured. Suddenly, a low rumble echoed through the tunnel. The ground beneath their feet vibrated, sending loose pebbles tumbling down the slope. Everyone froze, exchanging wary glances. "What was that?" Lavra whispered. "Could be anything," Ethan replied, his voice barely audible. "Stay sharp." Moments later, the door slid open with a hiss, revealing a dimly lit corridor stretching into darkness. Jake stepped back, nodding toward Ethan. "It's clear for now." The team filed inside, their footsteps muffled by the smooth metallic floor. The walls were lined with glowing veins of energy, casting strange shadows that danced around them. Lavra couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. Though she saw no signs of movement, they moved deeper into the complex, following Jake's directions based on the intel he'd decoded earlier. The corridors twisted and turned, leading them past rows of sealed chambers and locked doors. Some bore symbols similar to those on the entrance, while others were blank and unmarked. Finally, they reached a larger chamber filled with machinery and monitors displaying streams of data. In the center stood a glass tank containing a floating orb of pulsating light. Jake immediately gravitated toward it, his eyes wide with fascination. This is incredible," he murmured, scanning the orb with his device. "It's some kind of bioweapon generator. These readings match what we found in the transmissions." Lovra stepped closer, peering at the orb. "Is this what they're using against us?" "Possibly," Jake replied. "If we can analyze it, we might figure out how to counteract their attacks." Before anyone could respond, a loud clang echoed through the chamber. The sound sent a jolt of panic through the group. Ethan raised a hand, signaling for silence. Slowly, he crept toward the doorway, his weapon drawn. A shadow moved in the distance, followed by another. Then came voices, alien voices, guttural and distorted. They were close. "Get behind me," Ethan ordered, positioning himself between the team and the approaching threat. Lovra obeyed instinctively, crouching low with her rifle aimed forward. Her hands trembled, but she forced herself to steady her breathing. The aliens appeared moments later, 3 of them, their sleek armor gleaming under the dim lights. They paused briefly, scanning the room with glowing eyes. When they spotted the intruders, their weapons snapped upward, emitting the same pulsating beams Lovra remembered from the hospital raid. "Now!" Ethan shouted. Chaos erupted. Ethan fired first, his shot striking one of the aliens with pinpoint accuracy. Mia darted to the side, taking cover behind a console and returning fire. Jake dropped to the floor, shielding the bioweapon orb with his body. Leo unleashed a barrage of suppressive fire, forcing the remaining aliens to retreat temporarily. Lavra hesitated, her finger hovering over the trigger. She had trained for this moment, practiced until her arms ached, but nothing could have prepared her for the reality of combat. The sight of the aliens, the deafening roar of weapons, the adrenaline coursing through her veins, it was overwhelming. One of the aliens lunged toward her, its weapon raised. Time seemed to slow as she reacted, squeezing the trigger just as Ethan had taught her. The shot hit its mark, sending the creature sprawling to the ground. Lavra stared in shock, her chest heaving. She had done it. She had fought back. "Nice work, Doc," Ethan called out, reloading his weapon. "But we're not done yet." More aliens poured into the chamber, their numbers growing rapidly. The team fought valiantly, using every trick they'd learned. During training, Mia sniped targets from afar, picking off enemies with deadly precision. Leo hurled grenades into clusters of foes, creating explosions that shook the entire structure. Even Jake managed to hold his own, firing blindly while keeping the bioweapon secure. Through it all, Lovra struggled to keep pace. Every shot she fired felt like a gamble, every movement a risk. Yet somehow she found her rhythm. Her aim improved, her reactions sharpened. By the time the final alien fell, she was trembling but alive. "We need to move," Ethan barked, already heading for the exit. "That fight will have alerted the whole facility." The team regrouped quickly, gathering what supplies they could carry. As they left the chamber, Laura caught a glimpse of something through a nearby window, a row of cells, each containing a human figure. Her stomach churned. These were the captives, the doctors and nurses taken from Earth. Ryan. She breathed, spotting a familiar face among the prisoners. He looked pale and gaunt, but unmistakably alive. "We'll come back for them," Ethan promised, seeing the desperation in her eyes. "But right now, we stick to the plan." Reluctantly, Lavra followed the group deeper into the tunnels. Despite the danger, hope flickered within her. They had made it this far. They could do more. And maybe, just maybe, they could bring Ryan and countless others home. The team pressed on through the labyrinth of tunnels, their movements swift but cautious. Laura's mind raced with images of Ryan trapped in that cell, his gaunt face etched with exhaustion. She wanted nothing more than to turn back and free him immediately, but she knew Ethan was right. They couldn't risk jeopardizing the mission for a single rescue attempt. Not yet. Jake led the way now, his handheld device scanning for signals that might guide them deeper into the alien stronghold. The glowing veins in the walls pulsed faintly, casting eerie shadows across their path. Every sound their boots scraping against the floor, the hum of distant machinery felt amplified in the oppressive silence. "We're close," Jake whispered, glancing at his screen. "There's a central hub just ahead. That's where they're running everything from." Ethan nodded, signaling for Mia and Leo to take point. They moved silently, weapons drawn, while Lavra stayed near Jake. Her rifle felt heavier with each step, her muscles tense from the constant alertness. She tried to focus on the task ahead, but flashes of the earlier firefight kept replaying in her mind. She had killed an alien. The thought unsettled her, even though she knew it had been necessary. When they reached the central hub, the sight took her breath away. The chamber was vast, filled with towering machines and banks of monitors displaying streams of data. Alien technicians scurried about, their movements mechanical and precise. At the center stood a massive console surrounded by guards tall, armored figures whose presence radiated authority. "This is it," Ethan murmured. "If we can disable their systems here, we might be able to disrupt their entire operation." "And get Ryan out," Lavra added softly, her voice tinged with urgency. "Right," Ethan agreed. "But we'll need to split up. Mia, you cover US from above. Leo, stay ready to blow those doors if things go south. Jake, find a way to hack into their mainframe. Lavra, stick close to me." Everyone nodded, slipping into position without hesitation. Mia scaled a nearby catwalk, disappearing into the shadows as she prepared to provide sniper support. Leo positioned himself near the entrance, setting charges along the frame in case they needed a quick escape. Meanwhile, Jake knelt beside the console, his fingers flying over the keys of his device as he worked to bypass the alien security protocols. Lavra followed Ethan as he crept toward one of the side corridors, his weapon raised. Their goal was simple: create enough chaos to draw attention away from Jake so he could finish his work. But as they rounded a corner, they found themselves face to face with a group of aliens. "Freeze!" Ethan barked, firing a warning shot. That ricocheted off the wall. The aliens hesitated for a split second before raising their weapons. Ethan returned fire, forcing them to scatter. Lavra ducked behind a pillar, her heart pounding as she struggled to steady her rifle. When one of the aliens charged toward her, she reacted instinctively, pulling the trigger. The shot missed its mark, grazing the creature's shoulder instead of hitting a vital spot. It staggered but didn't fall. "Lavra, move!" Ethan shouted, stepping in to shield her. He fired 2 clean shots, dropping the alien instantly. "I'm sorry," she gasped, her hands shaking. "I panicked." "You're fine," Ethan assured her, though his tone was clipped. "Just keep moving." Back in the main chamber, Jake cursed under his breath. The alien systems were proving more complex than he'd anticipated. Lines of code scrolled across his screen, each line requiring careful decryption. Sweat dripped down his forehead as he worked, his glasses fogging. "Slightly. Almost there," he muttered to himself. "Just hold on." Above, Mia picked off targets with deadly precision, her sniper rifle echoing through the chamber. Each shot sent another alien collapsing to the ground, creating confusion among the enemy ranks. From his vantage point, Leo watched anxiously, ready to detonate the charges at a moment's notice. Suddenly, a loud alarm blared throughout the facility. Red lights flashed, bathing the room in an ominous glow. The aliens abandoned their posts, rushing toward the source of the disturbance. Lavra realized with a sinking feeling that they had triggered some kind of failsafe. They know we're here. Ethan yelled, grabbing Jake by the arm. How much longer? 30 seconds. Jake replied, his fingers flying faster than ever. Make it 20. Mia adjusted her position, taking aim at the advancing horde. They're coming in hot, she warned. We need to move now. Leo ignited the charges, blowing open the main entrance with a deafening explosion. Dust and debris filled the air as the team regrouped near the exit. Jake finally let out a triumphant shout. Got it. Systems are down. Good job, Ethan said, clapping him on the back. Now let's get out of here. As they retreated, Lovra glanced back at the cells holding the captives. Through the haze of smoke, she spotted Ryan again, his eyes wide with recognition. He mouthed something she couldn't hear, but the message was clear. Don't leave me. Wait. She cried, breaking away from the group. We have to go back. No time. Ethan snapped, grabbing her arm. We'll come back for them later, trust me. Reluctantly, she allowed herself to be pulled along, tears stinging her eyes. They sprinted through the tunnels, dodging fallen debris and bursts of alien fire. Behind them, the facility began to collapse, the destruction caused by Jake's hack destabilizing the structure. When they finally emerged into the cold air outside, Lavra collapsed to her knees, gasping for breath. The others gathered around her, their faces grim but determined. Despite the success of their mission, the weight of what they had left behind hung heavily over them. We did it, Jake said quietly, clutching his device. Their systems are offline. Whatever they were planning, it stopped for now. But not for long, Ethan added. They'll recover. And when they do, they'll come after us harder than before. Lavra looked up, her resolve hardening. Then we'll be ready. Next time we won't leave anyone behind. Ethan met her gaze, nodding slowly. Next time we fight smarter. For now we regroup and prepare. As the team made their way back to the ship, Lavra couldn't shake the image of Ryan's face. She had promised herself she would save him, no matter the cost. And deep down, she knew the next phase of their mission would demand sacrifices none of them were truly prepared for. For now, though, they had won a small victory. And sometimes, in the face of overwhelming odds, even the smallest victories mattered most. The ride back to Earth was tense and silent. The team sat in the spacecraft, each lost in their own thoughts. Lavra stared out the viewport, her mind replaying the events on Xylith 7. She thought about Ryan, trapped in that cell, his eyes pleading for help. She had promised herself she wouldn't leave him behind again, and yet, here she was, heading home without him. Jake broke the silence first. We did what we came to do, he said, his voice soft but strained. Their systems are down. They won't be able to use that bioweapon anytime soon. But it's not enough, Lavra replied, her tone sharp with frustration. We left them there. All those people. They're still prisoners. Ethan glanced at her from the pilot's seat. His expression was unreadable, but there was a flicker of guilt in his eyes. I know how you feel, Laura, but we couldn't risk losing everyone. If we'd stayed longer, we might not have made it out alive. That doesn't make it right, she shot back, her voice rising. We can't just abandon them. What if they hurt Ryan? What if they hurt all of them? No one answered. The truth hung heavy in the air. They had done what they could for now. But the cost weighed on all of them. Mia leaned against a wall, cleaning her rifle with mechanical precision. Her hands moved quickly, but her jaw was clenched, betraying her anger. Leo sat quietly in the corner, his massive frame hunched over as though carrying an invisible burden. Even Jake looked uneasy, fidgeting with his device as if searching for answers it couldn't provide. When they landed back at the mountain base, Captain Daniel Hayes greeted them personally. His face lit up when he saw them step off the ship, but his smile faltered when he noticed their somber expressions. "What happened?" he asked, stepping closer. Ethan gave a brief summary of the mission, the sabotage of the alien systems, the glimpse of human captives, and the difficult decision to retreat. Hayes listened intently, his brow furrowed with concern. "You did well," he said finally, "but I understand why you're upset. Those people deserve better." Lavra stepped forward, her fists clenched. "Then let us go back. Let us finish this." Hayes hesitated, glancing at Ethan. "It's not that simple. The aliens will have reinforced their defenses by now. Going back in blind would be suicide." "Not if we plan it right," Ethan interjected. "We've seen their facility. We know where the captives are being held. With the right strategy, we can pull it off." Hayes sighed, running a hand through his hair. "All right. But you'll need reinforcements and time. You'll also need intel. Find out everything you can about their forces, their weaknesses. Anything that gives us an edge." The team dispersed to begin preparations. Lavra threw herself into research, poring over data collected during the mission. Jake worked tirelessly to analyze the alien tech they'd salvaged, searching for vulnerabilities. Mia spent hours honing her aim, while Leo tested explosives designed to breach fortified structures. Ethan coordinated their efforts, ensuring every detail of the plan was accounted for. Days turned into weeks as they trained and strategized. Lavra grew more confident with her weapon, her aim improving with each practice session. Still, she struggled with the moral weight of taking lives even. Alien ones. One evening, after a particularly grueling drill, she approached Ethan. "How do you do it?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "How do you kill someone and not lose yourself in the process?" Ethan paused, considering her question. "You focus on why you're doing it," he said finally. "Every shot, every move, it's not about hatred or revenge. It's about protecting the people who matter. The ones counting on you to come home." His words didn't fully ease her doubts, but they gave her something to hold on to. She reminded herself of Ryan, of the countless others still trapped on Xylith 7. For them, she could keep fighting. Finally, the day of the second mission arrived. The team gathered in the hangar, checking their gear one last time. This time, they weren't alone. A small squad of additional soldiers joined them, their faces hardened by experience. Hayes addressed the group before departure. "This is it," he said, his voice steady but filled with emotion. "Bring our people home, and show those bastards what happens when they mess with Earth." As the spacecraft lifted off, Lavra felt a surge of determination. She wasn't the same person who had boarded this ship months ago. She had trained, fought, and bled alongside her teammates. Now she was ready to face whatever awaited them. When they reached Xylith 7, the landscape looked even bleaker than before. Dark clouds churned overhead, and jagged cliffs loomed like skeletal fingers reaching toward the sky. The team disembarked cautiously, sticking to the shadows as they made their way toward the facility. This time, they approached from a different angle, using tunnels Ethan had identified during their previous raid. The journey was treacherous, the narrow passageways slick with frost and littered with debris. Every sound echoed ominously, keeping everyone on edge. "We're close," Jake whispered, consulting his device. "Just a little farther." They emerged into a dimly lit corridor leading to the prison wing. Alien guards patrolled the area, their weapons gleaming under the faint light. Ethan signaled for silence, motioning for Mia to take position on a nearby catwalk. She nodded, disappearing into the shadows. Mia's first shot rang out moments later, dropping a guard instantly. The others reacted quickly, spreading out to cover the remaining enemies. Lavra fired her rifle, her aim steadier than ever. Each shot hit its mark, fueled by the memory of Ryan's desperate face. As the guards fell, the team pressed forward, reaching the row of cells. Lavra scanned the occupants, her heart leaping when she spotted Ryan. He looked weaker than before, his skin pale and his body frail, but his eyes lit up when he saw her. "Lavra," he called weakly, gripping the bars of his cell. "You came back. We're getting you out," she promised, pulling a tool from her belt. She worked quickly, unlocking the door and pulling him into a tight embrace. "Are you okay?" "I am now," he murmured, leaning on her for support. The reunion was cut short by the sound of approaching footsteps. More aliens were coming. Alerted by the commotion, Ethan barked orders, directing the team to secure the area. Jake and Leo set charges along key sections of the facility, ensuring their escape route would remain clear. Lavra helped Ryan move toward the exit, shielding him as best she could. Around them, chaos erupted. Gunfire echoed through the corridors, mingling with the roar of explosions as Leo detonated the charges. The facility began to crumble, chunks of rock and metal raining down around them. "Move!" Ethan shouted, ushering the group toward the surface. They ran as fast as they could, dodging falling debris and enemy fire. Lavra kept one arm firmly around Ryan, refusing to let go even as her legs burned with exhaustion. When they finally burst into the open air, the sight of their spacecraft waiting nearby filled them with relief. The pilot waved frantically, urging them to hurry. Aliens poured out of the collapsing structure, firing wildly in pursuit. Mia covered their retreat, her sniper rifle picking off targets with deadly accuracy. As the last of the team scrambled aboard, Ethan shouted for the pilot to take off. The engines roared to life, lifting the ship just as the aliens closed in. Inside, the atmosphere was electric. Everyone cheered, adrenaline coursing through their veins. Lavra sat beside Ryan, tears streaming down her face as she held him close. He smiled weakly, his voice trembling. "Thank you," he said softly, "for not giving up on me." She shook her head, brushing away her tears. "Never, not ever." As the ship soared into space, leaving Xylith 7 behind, Ethan stood near the viewport, watching the planet shrink into the distance. They had succeeded, but at a cost. The facility was destroyed, and many aliens had been killed. Yet, despite the destruction, there was no sense of victory, only a grim acknowledgement of what they had endured. Back on Earth, the rescued captives were greeted as heroes. Their stories spread across the globe, reigniting hope among those who had feared the worst. Lavra returned to St. Vincent Hospital, resuming her role as a healer, but she carried the lessons of war with her. She knew now that sometimes healing required sacrifice, and sometimes saving lives meant being willing to fight for them. For the angels of death, the battle was far from over. But as long as there were those willing to stand against the darkness, humanity would endure. The return to Earth was bittersweet. The rescued captives were reunited with their families, and for a brief moment, there was joy in the air. Lavra watched as Ryan embraced his wife and young daughter, tears streaming down all their faces. It was a scene she had fought so hard to make possible, yet the victory felt hollow. Too many lives had been lost, and too much damage had been done at St. Vincent Hospital. Life slowly began to return to normal. Patients filled the wards again, and doctors and nurses worked tirelessly to heal those who had suffered during the crisis. But Lavra couldn't shake the memories of Xylith 7, the cold tunnels, the alien guards, the desperate faces of the prisoners. She carried them with her everywhere, like shadows clinging to her thoughts. One evening, after a long shift, she found herself sitting alone in the hospital cafeteria. Ethan joined her unexpectedly, sliding into the seat across from her. He looked tired, his usual stern demeanor softened by exhaustion. "How are you holding up?" he asked, his voice gentle. Lara shrugged. I don't know. I keep thinking about what happened. About the people we left behind. You did everything you could, Ethan said firmly. We saved as many as we could. That's something. But it's not enough, Lara replied, her tone heavy with frustration. What if they come back? What if they attack again? They might, Ethan admitted, but next time we'll be ready. We've learned from this. Humanity has learned. Lara nodded, though doubt lingered in her mind. She wanted to believe him, but the fear of another invasion gnawed at her. Still, she knew one thing for certain. She wouldn't stand idly by if it happened again. Back at the mountain base, Captain Hayes called a meeting with the Angels of Death. The team gathered in the briefing room, their expressions weary but determined. Hayes stood at the front, his posture rigid as he addressed them. The aliens have been quiet since the raid, he began. Too quiet. Our intel suggests they're regrouping, rebuilding. Whatever they planned before, they'll try again, and when they do, we need to be prepared. What's the plan? Ethan asked, leaning forward. We fortify, Hayes replied. Strengthen our defenses, expand our network of operatives, and continue studying their tech. Jake, your work is crucial. If we can understand their systems better, we might find a way to neutralize them permanently. Jake nodded, already jotting down notes. His passion for technology hadn't waned. If anything, it had grown stronger since the mission. He saw every piece of alien equipment as a puzzle waiting to be solved. Mia, Leo, I want you two training new recruits. Hayes continued. We need more soldiers capable of handling situations like the ones you faced. And Ethan, you'll lead the charge if when they strike again. Ethan didn't hesitate. Understood. Hayes turned to Lara. And you, Dr. Bennett, you've proven yourself invaluable. Not just as a medic, but as someone willing to fight for what matters. You've earned your place among us. Lara felt a surge of pride mixed with sadness. She had never asked for any of this, but she couldn't deny the bond she now shared with the team. They weren't just colleagues or comrades, they were family. Weeks passed, and the world began to rebuild. The attacks on hospitals became a distant memory for most, replaced by stories of courage and resilience. Social media buzzed with tributes to the Angels of Death, though few knew the true extent of their sacrifices. For the team, however, life remained far from ordinary. Lara divided her time between the hospital and the base, treating patients while also helping Jake analyze alien tech. Together, they discovered something startling. Fragments of code within the bioweapon generator hinted at a failsafe, a way to reverse its effects. It was incomplete, but it offered hope. If we can finish decoding this, Jake explained excitedly, we might be able to turn their weapon against them. Neutralize their entire species without firing a shot. It's risky, Mia cautioned. What if it doesn't work? What if it makes things worse? It's worth trying, Ethan said firmly. We can't keep fighting blindly. If there's a chance to end this peacefully, we take it. Preparations for the final phase of their mission intensified. The team trained harder than ever, knowing that this could be their last stand. Lara pushed herself to her limits, mastering skills she never thought she'd need. She practiced disarming traps, navigating hostile terrain, and administering emergency care under fire. Each day brought her closer to becoming the warrior Ethan believed she could be. Ryan visited her often, offering words of encouragement. Though he had returned to civilian life, he understood the weight of what she carried. You're stronger than you think, he told her one evening. Don't forget that. I won't, she promised, smiling faintly. Thanks, Ryan. When the call came, it was sudden and urgent. Alien ships had been spotted entering Earth's orbit. Their numbers were greater than ever, and their trajectory suggested an imminent attack. The team assembled quickly, their movements precise and efficient. There was no panic, only resolve. As they boarded the spacecraft, Lavra took a deep breath. She glanced at Ethan, who gave her a reassuring nod. "Ready?" he asked. "As ready as I'll ever be," she replied. The journey to space was tense. Through the viewport, they watched as the alien fleet grew larger, their ships sleek and menacing. When they reached the designated coordinates, the team deployed using stealth pods, small craft designed to evade detection. Their objective was clear: infiltrate the mothership, locate the central control hub, and activate the failsafe. It was a suicide mission in every sense, but none of them hesitated. Inside the mothership, the corridors were eerily silent. The team moved cautiously, sticking to the shadows. Lavra stayed close to Ethan, her heart pounding with each step. When they finally reached the control hub, Jake set to work immediately, his fingers flying over the console. "This is it," he muttered, sweat dripping from his brow. "Just a little longer." Suddenly, alarms blared throughout the ship. Red. Lights flashed, and the sound of approaching footsteps echoed in the distance. Aliens swarmed the area, their weapons drawn. Ethan shouted orders, directing the team to hold their ground. "Jake, hurry!" Mia yelled, picking off targets with deadly precision. "I'm almost done." Jake replied, his voice strained. Lavra fired her rifle, her aim steady despite the chaos around her. Each shot hit its mark, fueled by the determination to protect her team. Beside her, Leo unleashed a barrage of explosives, creating barriers to slow the enemy advance. Finally, Jake let out a triumphant shout. "Got it! Failsafe activated." A low hum filled the air, growing louder by the second. The aliens froze, their glowing eyes dimming as the failsafe took effect. One by one, they collapsed to the ground, their bodies lifeless. "It worked," Ethan breathed, lowering his weapon. It actually worked. But their relief was short-lived. The ship began to shake violently, its systems destabilizing. "We need to get out of here," Mia shouted. The team sprinted toward the exit, dodging falling debris and bursts of energy. Lavra helped Jake, who had injured his leg during the firefight, while Ethan led the way. As they reached the escape pods, Leo paused, turning back to face the advancing collapse. "Go," he ordered, planting a final explosive charge. "I'll hold them off." "No," Ethan protested, reaching for him. "Someone has to," Leo said simply, his expression calm. "Get out of here." With tears in their eyes, the team obeyed, launching the pod just as the explosion rocked the ship. Through the viewport, they watched as the mothership imploded, taking Leo with it. Back on Earth, the news spread quickly. The alien threat had been neutralized. Thanks to the bravery of the Angels of Death, celebrations erupted worldwide. But for the team, there was no joy, only sorrow. At the base, Ethan stepped down as commander, passing leadership to Mia. "It's time for a new chapter," he said quietly, "for all of us." Lavra returned to the hospital, resuming her role as a healer. But she carried the lessons of war with her always. She knew now that healing and fighting weren't opposites. They were two sides of the same coin. Both required courage, sacrifice, and an unwavering belief in the value of life. As she looked up at the stars one night, she felt a strange sense of peace. The battle was over, but humanity's story was far from finished. And as long as there were those willing to stand against the darkness, hope would endure.